The promise of AI in medicine is, well, it's truly incredible, isn't it? We're talking about expanding access to expert knowledge, helping doctors make better decisions, even in really complex cases. But here's the critical question, the gap really. How well do our current AI evaluations actually reflect the complexity of, real clinical practice? Can an AI system truly learn to think like a doctor, iteratively, adapting, keeping cost in mind? Today on AI Peer Review, we're taking a deep dive into an interesting paper from Microsoft AI. It's titled Sequential Diagnosis with Language Models. Yeah, and this work introduces a groundbreaking new benchmark in an orchestrated AI system. It's designed specifically to emulate that real-world diagnostic reasoning.
That's right. And for you, our technically savvy listener, our mission today is to unpack how this work basically gives a definitive yes to that very question you just asked. We'll show you how this new benchmark, SD Bench, moves way beyond those static evaluations we've seen. And then we'll delve into the architecture and, frankly, the impressive performance of the MAI Diagnostic Orchestrator, or MAI-DXO. We'll get into the specifics that make the system not just highly accurate, but also surprisingly cost-effective. It really aligns with what's called the triple aim of healthcare, high quality care, better access, and sustainable costs.
Okay, let's unpack that first bit. When we talk about typical medical exams for large language models, LMs, what we often see are these static vignettes. Like imagine AI getting a neatly packaged set of symptoms, lab results, maybe some imaging reports, all given upfront. Then it's just asked to pick a diagnosis from a multiple choice list. Sounds almost like giving the AI all the answers before the test even starts.
Exactly. It's like, here's everything, now circle the right one. And that couldn't be more different from real clinical practice. Physicians, they don't get a perfectly organized dossier all at once, not at all. They usually start with very minimal details, maybe just a chief complaint, or like the paper shows, a brief abstract. And then they iteratively formulate hypotheses, they ask specific questions, they order targeted tests, and they're constantly refining their thinking as new data comes in.
Right, it's a dynamic process.
Precisely. And the big problem with these static benchmarks is they risk significantly overstating a model's actual competence. They can hide critical weaknesses, things like premature diagnostic closure, making a diagnosis too early, or just indiscriminately ordering tests, ordering everything without thinking about cost or necessity. And they don't account for anchoring bias, getting stuck on an early idea. This is exactly where this idea of sequential diagnosis becomes so crucial for a realistic evaluation.
Okay, so that brings us to SD Bench, the sequential diagnosis benchmark. This sounds like it's designed specifically to fix those problems.
Yeah.
It's described as an interactive framework, transforming these really challenging diagnostic cases, 304 of them, from the New England Journal of Medicine's clinical pathological conferences, the NEJM CPCs.
Yeah, those are famously tough cases.
Right, published between 2017 and 2025. And it turns them into these stepwise diagnostic encounters. It's like a dynamic medical mystery unfolding. So the diagnostic agent, whether it's a human or an AI, starts with just a brief patient summary. Like the example you mentioned, a 29-year-old woman admitted, sore throat, swelling, bleeding. Antibiotics didn't work. That's it. That's the starting point.
Exactly, just like a real consult might start.
Yeah.
And to really get how SD Bench works, you have to imagine this sophisticated multi-agent system running behind the scenes. First, you've got the diagnostic agent. That's the decision maker. Could be a human doctor, could be an AI. They're the one actually making the calls. Then there's this really clever part, the gatekeeper agent. This is implemented using a smaller language model, O4 Mini, and it has the entire NEJM case file, but it acts like an oracle. It only reveals findings when the diagnostic agent explicitly asks for them.
So it holds back information until asked.
Precisely. And here's a critical detail.
Sure.
If the diagnostic agent asks for a test or a piece of history that wasn't explicitly in the original text, the gatekeeper can actually synthesize realistic, case-consistent findings. This stops the agent from getting implicit clues just because something wasn't mentioned. It keeps it very realistic. And they validated this. Physicians checked the synthesized answers, very few issues found. It really forces the agent to ask for information.
Interesting. So the diagnostic agent can't just sit there. It has to actually do something, take an action.
Absolutely. At any given step, it has three choices. It can ask questions just free text, like asking about travel history or symptoms. It can request diagnostic test specific orders, like order a chest CT with contrast. Or finally, it can diagnose. And that's a one-time commitment. Once you say diagnose, that's your final answer.
Okay, a one-shot deal on the diagnosis. And how is that final diagnosis judged? Is it just as simple right or wrong?
No, it's more nuanced than that, which is good. That's
Yeah.
where the judge agent comes in. This uses a more powerful model, O3. It evaluates the proposed diagnosis against the ground truth using a detailed 5-point rubric that was actually created by physicians. It looks at things like, did it get the core disease, the cause, the location? How specific and complete is it? A score of 4 or higher is considered correct, basically because the clinical management wouldn't really change much.
Ah, okay, so practical correctness.
Exactly. And the judge itself was validated too, showed strong agreement between different raters, so its assessments are reliable.
Now, this all sounds great for accuracy, but you mentioned the triple aim earlier. What about the real-world constraints, like cost? Because ordering every test imaginable isn't practical.
You hit the nail on the head. That's where the cost estimator is absolutely vital. It tracks the cumulative estimated real-world cost. They assigned costs like $300 per virtual physician visit and matched CPT codes for tests to 2023 U.S. prices. And this isn't just for scorekeeping. It actively discourages unrealistic behavior. It forces the AI or the human to think about value, aligning directly with that goal of sustainable, high-quality care. It adds that crucial real-world pressure.
And just to hammer home how tough this benchmark actually is, they tested it on real doctors, right? 21 experienced physicians from the US and UK. Their accuracy, only 20%. And the average cost per case was nearly $3,000.
Yeah, that 20% accuracy for experienced doctors is, well, it's striking. It really tells you something about how complex these sequential diagnostic puzzles are.
Absolutely. It shows these aren't trivial problems, even for humans with years of experience. It really sets the stage for why a system like MAI-DXO is needed.
Exactly. It's a genuinely challenging arena.
Okay, so with that incredibly tough benchmark established, let's talk about the system designed to tackle it. The MAI Diagnostic Orchestrator, MAI-DXO. You described it as model agnostic, co-designed with physicians, and something that consistently beats humans and standard large language models on SD-Bench.
Yes, let's dive into the MAI-DXO architecture, because this is where the magic happens, really. It cleverly mimics a virtual panel of doctors working together. But the genius part is, it's a single language model that role-plays 5 distinct medical personas or specialists. Think of it as structured reasoning, breaking down the complex task into specialized roles, just like a real hospital team might.
A single model playing 5 roles. Okay, tell me about these roles.
Right. So first, you have Dr. Hypothesis. This persona maintains the differential diagnosis in the list of possible conditions. It keeps the top 3 probability ranked and updates those probabilities using Bayesian methods after each new piece of information comes in.
Okay, so it's constantly reevaluating the likelihood.
Constantly. Then there's Dr. Test Chooser. This one's job is to strategically pick up to 3 tests per round. The goal is to choose tests that will best help distinguish between those top hypotheses Dr. Hypothesis is tracking, maximum information gain, essentially.
Makes sense. Targeted testing.
Exactly. Next up is Dr. Challenger. This is the devil's advocate. Its purpose is to spot potential anchoring bias, getting stuck on one idea, highlight any evidence that doesn't fit the leading theory, and even suggest tests specifically aimed at disproving the current frontrunner.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like building in a mechanism to fight cognitive biases. An internal skeptic.
It really is a crucial quality control step. Fourth is Dr. Stewardship. This persona focuses purely on cost-conscious care. It pushes for cheaper alternatives if they're just as good diagnostically, and it can actually veto tests that are expensive and unlikely to yield useful information.
Directly tackling the cost problem.
Directly. And finally, there's Dr. Checklist. This one works silently in the background, performing quality control, and make sure the test names generated are valid, ensures everything the panel outputs is internally consistent, sort of like a final proofread for clinical coherence. And the paper looked at 5 different versions of MAI-DXO, from a basic instant answer up to an ensemble approach, exploring that trade-off between accuracy and cost. Oh, and an important point. The actual computing cost for MAI-DXO to run one of these cases is tiny, like $0.15. It's completely dwarfed by the potential cost of the diagnostic tests it might order. The value isn't brute force computation, it's the smart orchestration.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting looking at the results. You mentioned superhuman performance. Lay it out for us. What did they find?
Right, let's break down the performance, maybe visualizing that accuracy versus cost graph they have. First, consider the off-the-shelf models, like the powerful O3 model used as a base. They found a pretty clear link. Higher accuracy often meant much higher costs. O3 got good baseline accuracy, yes, but it also racked up the highest average cost per case, around $7,850.
Ouch. So just using a powerful model doesn't guarantee efficiency.
Not at all. It suggests that even advanced AIs need structure. Otherwise, they might just explore everything, ordering tons of tests. More capable models generated broader lists of possibilities and ordered more tests. Weaker models sometimes looked cheaper, but it was a false economy. They just weren't considering enough possibilities.
Okay, so how did MAI-DXO change things?
This is the key part, MAI-DXO's dominance. When they applied MAI-DXO on top of that same O3 model in the standard configuration, accuracy actually increased to 81.9%. But get this, the average test cost dropped significantly, down to $4,735. That's a huge reduction from O3's $7,850 baseline.
Wow, so it got more accurate and cheaper simultaneously.
Exactly. That's the holy grail, improving both quality and cost. For maximum accuracy, their ensemble setup hit an incredible 85.5% accuracy and still cost less than the off-the-shelf O3. And if cost is the absolute main driver, a budgeted version still got nearly 80% accuracy at a super low cost of around $2,400 per case. Very practical.
That's a massive difference. Can you illustrate that with one of the specific cases you mentioned in alcohol withdrawal example earlier?
Yes, that's a perfect illustration. The patient who ingested hand sanitizer during alcohol withdrawal, the standard O3 model got fixated on potential antibiotic toxicity. It ordered expensive imaging brain MRI, EEG spent over $3,400, and still got the diagnosis wrong.
Okay.
Now contrast that with MAI-DXO using O3. Dr. Hypothesis immediately flagged in-hospital toxin exposure as something to consider. Dr. Stewardship then guided the system to ask a direct question. Did the patient ingest hand sanitizer? The patient, simulated by the gatekeeper based on the case file, confessed. This led to targeted tests, the correct diagnosis, and the total cost was only $795, a fraction of the cost and the right answer.
That really shows the power of structured reasoning and, well, asking the right questions.
Absolutely. It shows how MAI-DXO mitigates those biases and dramatically improves the value of each step. And another really compelling finding is MAI-DXO's model-agnostic power. It wasn't just tuned for O3. They applied it to a whole range of other foundation models from OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, xAI, Meta, DeepSeek, and it consistently boosted diagnostic accuracy across the board. For weaker models, it provided scaffolding, helping them reason better. For stronger models, it imposed that useful discipline, reducing bias, encouraging cost awareness. The improvements were statistically significant for almost all of them.
That's huge for practical adoption. It means health systems aren't necessarily locked into a single AI provider.
Precisely. And it speaks to robustness and generalization. The system performed just as well in a hidden test set of recent cases from 2024-2025 as it did on the validation set. This wasn't just memorization. It showed genuine diagnostic capability that generalizes to new, unseen cases.
Okay, solid performance on unseen data. Any other technical nuggets?
Just briefly, they did an ablation study comparing ordering tests one by one versus in batches. They used batching for the main results for realism. But interestingly, MAI-DXO, running on O3 in single test mode, achieved the same accuracy but at an even lower cost. So there might be room for further optimization there depending on the exact clinical workflow you're simulating.
Fascinating. So, stepping back, what does all this mean for the bigger picture of medicine? The paper throws out this idea that these AI models are challenging the old generalist versus specialist divide.
Yeah, it's a provocative thought. These systems are demonstrating both breadth understanding across many medical areas like a generalist and depth reasoning deeply within a specialty. It's like an AI medical polymath. And it forces us to ask, should we evaluate these advanced AIs by comparing them to a single doctor or maybe more appropriately to an entire hospital team working collaboratively? The potential here is immense for expanding access to expert-level medical knowledge globally. Think about mitigating workforce shortages, reducing the variability in care quality we see, especially in resource-limited areas.
It sounds incredibly promising. But are there limitations? Scenarios where this kind of virtual panel might still not capture everything, or areas needing more work?
That's a really important question. And yes, the paper itself is clear about future directions. This was tested on complex, rare NEJM cases. We absolutely need to validate MAI-DXO in more common, everyday clinical settings. Also, the current cost model is purely financial. We need to incorporate other patient-specific risks, invasiveness of a test, wait times, even patient discomfort or anxiety. Those are real-world factors, too. And beyond that, developing broader diagnostic data sets, using these tools for medical training, integrating visual data like X-rays or CT scans directly, these are all crucial next steps. So it's a massive leap forward, but definitely not the end of the story.
Okay, that makes sense. So to wrap things up, this work seems to really highlight a path forward. AI systems, when guided to think iteratively, like a doctor, and act judiciously, considering costs and evidence, They can genuinely advance both diagnostic precision and cost-effectiveness. It's not just about getting the right answer anymore, but about getting it efficiently, responsibly, really aligning AI with the core values of good medical practice.
Exactly. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. Given MAI Distow's ability to simulate this panel of collaborating experts, what does this really imply for the future of team-based healthcare? Could we be moving towards a future where, even in places with very limited resources, AI could provide access to a virtual specialist consultation for essentially every patient? Imagine the potential impact on health outcomes and resource allocation globally. It's a pretty profound possibility to consider.